During the presidency of John Magufuli, Tanzania experienced a sharp decline in press freedoms. Authorities used many types of different laws and enforcement actions to suppress media freedom. Journalists were kidnapped. Offices of media outlets were vandalized. In addition to physical threats, traditional and online media were prohibited from posting any content online that criticized the government or its policies. In 2021, there was a political opening when President Magufuli died and a new president took power. Tanzanian CSOs seized this opportunity. ICNL supported local CSOs to bring together a national coalition of organizations to advocate for media freedoms. These organizations were trained on the freedom of expression and its international standards, as well as best practices for media laws. They were encouraged to act as freedom of expression champions in their communities. This national coalition identified the most problematic legal provisions and developed a multifaceted strategy for reform. Their strategy included legal petitions in the courts, briefings with government officials, and submissions to regional and international mechanisms. Their advocacy was based on their research on the media sector and their mapping of the legal and regulatory framework for press freedoms. ICNL provided technical assistance by helping to analyze key laws according to the three-part test and other international human rights standards. The strategy to involve a wide coalition was effective. Over 350 stakeholders were trained on the standards for freedom of expression, both online and offline. Their legal petitions resulted in a court injunction. Their briefings with government officials resulted in amendments to 3 problematic laws, and their engagement with international human rights mechanisms resulted in interventions from UN bodies and the inclusion of several civil society recommendations into Tanzania's UPR action plan. Let's hear from the Center for Strategic Litigation based in Zanzibar to understand what they think led to the success of these advocacy initiatives.
Hi there, my name is Deus Valentine Rweyamama, and I work with the Center for Strategic Litigation based in Zanzibar, Tanzania. In 2021 or thereabouts, we came together as a group of civil society organizations in Zanzibar who were committed to improving the policy and legal framework affecting media and freedom of expression in Zanzibar. So we decided to take a 3-pronged approach where on the first hand, we engaged in deep analysis and research of the media legislation, not just the media law, the 1988 law, but also relevant legislation in comparison to Zanzibar's own state and development objectives, and as well as the Sustainable Development Goals. We were then able to build a strong body of evidence of how the legislation in Zanzibar was outdated. We then engaged with the relevant authorities through a series of workshops and seminars, where we invited them to also share their own experience as law enforcers of implementing that legislation. It was interesting because the workshops created a room for peer review, for colleagues in the relevant authorities to share firsthand their own experience, but also hear critical feedback in a safe environment about the gaps in the legislation. That created a sense of camaraderie between us and the administration, subsequently allowing us to effectively launch our findings in the presence of the highest authority, that is the second Vice President of Zanzibar. At the end of the day, we realized that going to court might not have solved all the challenges we had wanted, but creating a space where rigorous debate could take place between the authorities and those of us who are affected by this legislation created just the momentum we need.
Really, really impressive. What lessons can you take from the experience in Tanzania? Now, let's do one more exercise to see how you would advocate against a draft cybercrime bill if restrictive provisions were introduced in your country.